Hello, hello! As you can see, we are talking eyeshadow palettes today. You know, about 1.5 years ago, I did an eyeshadow inventory / declutter. And at that time, I wound up with 12 eyeshadow palettes and 4 quads. Somehow, in the past 1.5 years, that eyeshadow inventory has exploded into more than twice that amount. Granted, I have a YouTube channel and I do buy things to review for you and share on my channel, but this is just way more than my 400 square foot tiny house can hold comfortably, and it's way more than I can wrap my head around. So what I am going to do today is we're going to go through palette by palette. I will do mini reviews, I will do some finger swatches, but I will try to give you a really good idea of the color story with an up-close view of the palette. Anyway, this might be a longer video, so grab yourself a tea or a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, sit back and enjoy, and we are going to jump into it right now. So let's start with singles. This is a Z palette I got from Tarte at a really good price. It's nice and sturdy. And here are my eyeshadow singles. These are all 100% Sydney Grace, super high quality. I absolutely love Sydney Grace formula, both the mattes and the shimmers. Here we have creams, pinks, mauves. Then we have some taupes and some shimmers. I will list all of these colors in the description box below. Of course, actually every single palette I'm going to be talking about will be listed and linked in the description box below. I love all of these. Let me finger swatch these shimmers for you. Super, 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 super gorgeous. Look at those shimmers. Gorgeous. Maybe I can do an arm swatch. Look at those shimmers. Super, super, super pretty. Oh my gosh, I love the Sydney Grace formula. They're really affordable, and I'm really interested in building up my singles collection a little bit more. Anyway, that is my Sydney Grace eyeshadow singles. Those are not going anywhere. So let's get started in no particular order. I'm just grabbing the first thing that's available. This is the Too Faced Natural Mattes palette. You know, this is one of the very first palettes that I purchased a few years ago when I first started getting into eyeshadows, and I thought that because I was older, I needed to have an all matte palette. I really enjoy this palette. However, I find myself not reaching for it that often because I really do enjoy shimmers, and this doesn't have any shimmers. So I'm going to put this in the maybe pile. All right, so the sister palette to the Too Faced Natural Mattes is this Too Faced Natural Eyes. Very, very similar color story, except for this does have some shimmers. This super soft pink champagne shimmer is one of my very favorite lid colors. It has a perfect transition color, great cream matte color. I love this palette. It was one of my top 3 palettes that I listed in my top 3 in every makeup category. This is not going anywhere. I love it. I use it a lot. By that same token, a few years ago, I picked up the Tarte Tartelette palette. Again, 100% matte, gorgeous color story. I love the fact that we have some neutrals, some rosy tones, some taupey tones. It's 100% matte. Great quality. Again, I don't find myself reaching for it that much because it doesn't have a shimmer, right? So I'm putting that in the maybe. That's a maybe because I think they're gorgeous palettes, but for some reason I haven't been using them. The Tartelette in Bloom, however, is a completely different story. I have said this many times before. This is one of my most used, most loved palettes. This was also in my top 3 in every category. I love this palette. I've actually used an entire palette up, and I have actually repurchased it. This is my most used, most loved palette. Again, really great color story. Cool toned, neutral tones, some plummy rose tones. It has a perfect lid color. A couple of other really pretty shimmers. I absolutely love this. One of my most used, most loved palettes. Here is the BKBeauty True Beauty eyeshadow palette. This palette holds a very special place in my heart because it's actually the only cosmetic PR I have ever received. The beautiful Lisa J sent this to me free in PR for a review. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Lisa J has an amazing YouTube channel here, Lisa J Beauty. I will link it below. She is the owner of Be Kind Beauty, BKBeauty, which stands for Be Kind. She makes beautiful cosmetic brushes, and this is her first eyeshadow palette. The formula is spectacular. There's a mix of mattes and shimmers, and those are some of my favorite colors. I love, love, love that purple satin shimmer, super nice, rich purpley brown, excellent transition color. I really, really love this. It's a fabulous neutral eyeshadow palette, and it is not going anywhere. And a huge special thank you to Lisa J for generously sending this to me. I absolutely love it, and it holds a very special place in my heart. Essence Salute Paris. Look at that beautiful packaging. I absolutely love the artwork. Super affordable at under $10. I absolutely love, love, love the color story. Right up my alley. Pinks, plums, mauves, taupes. Unfortunately, the formula just wasn't there for me. The texture is very thin. They're not very pigmented. They're hard to build up. And as much as usually I shy away from dark eyeshadows, I could not get enough pigment out of that darker shade to give me any kind of depth in my eyeshadow looks. I really gave this a good shot. I played with it quite a bit. It was also not long lasting. So unfortunately, this Essence eyeshadow palette is a fail for me, and I am decluttering it. But I do have one of Essence's newer little mini palettes. This is called Like to Mauve It. And the formula on this is absolutely wonderful. The shadows are pigmented. They are blendable. I love this color story. I just recently picked this up a few weeks ago. I actually also ordered the green one, which has not arrived yet. Anyway, I'm really enjoying this. This is a keeper. This was only $3. This is a great palette and unbelievable for the price. And the packaging, usually those really little cheap palettes, this is really good, sturdy, high quality packaging, which I do appreciate because I hate it when packaging falls apart or if they're really difficult to open. Anyway, Essence Like to Mauve It is definitely a keeper. So one Essence is being decluttered and one is a keeper. Okay, then we have a Milani. This is the Milani Most Wanted. This is in the color story Partners in Crime. This again is 100% matte. I really do like the color story. It's very neutral, cool mauve. But once again, I really don't prefer a 100% matte palette. I have these colors in other palettes, and so I am going to declutter that. All right, let's talk about the ColourPop Stone Cold Fox. It is a large, cool toned palette. And even though I don't usually prefer large palettes because I do find them to be a little bit overwhelming, this palette is just so easy to use because it is arranged in columns. And if you are looking at what to do on your eyes, just go down the column and you will have a gorgeous look. We have a pinky column, a brownie column, a taupey column, a silvery column, again another taupey column, and a mauve plum column. I absolutely love it. I get a lot of use out of this, and this palette is going to enable me to declutter some other palettes that are a little bit duplicative. It's one of my top 3 palettes for sure. The other large palette that I'm so glad I have is this Tartelette Juicy palette. Again, I love all these colors. Pinks and browns and peaches, great formula, beautiful soft shimmers. I love this palette. I picked it up last spring, and again, this palette is going to enable me to declutter some other palettes that are duplicative. So my Tartelette Juicy is not going anywhere. And those are my only 2 large palettes. Let's talk about the ColourPop Going Coconuts. This is one of ColourPop's most popular neutral palettes. It is truly neutral. It's not cool, it's not warm. It truly is neutral. But I have found that I don't reach for this very much. It's a great formula. I love the colors. The only one I really don't like is this really white shimmer. I don't know. It's sort of chunky and chalky and it doesn't look good on the eye. but all these other colors are absolutely fabulous. I don't reach for it very often because I have all these colors in other palettes that I actually enjoy using more. I have these colors in my Too Faced palettes. I have these colors in my Tartelette palettes, in my Stone Cold Fox palette. So even though this is a wonderful palette, I don't use it. So I am going to find a really good home for this, somebody who is going to use it and love it way more than I have been able to. And by that same token, we have the ColourPop Blush Crush palette. Gorgeous rosy colors, really nice formula, beautiful mattes, some beautiful shimmers. But if you compare it to my Tarte Juicy, it's duplicative, and I actually really do enjoy my Tartelette Juicy palette more than my ColourPop Blush Crush palette. So the Tartelette Juicy is going to enable me to be able to rehome this ColourPop Blush Crush and find somebody who will use it and love it way more than I have been able to. So that is in the Declutter palette. This is the MILANI Soft and Sultry palette. Gorgeous color story, cool, neutral, right up my alley, high quality. I just don't use it very much. I tend to reach more for my ColourPop Stone Cold Fox, and one of the reasons I don't enjoy using it on my channel is because it has been discontinued and you guys can't get a hold of it, so I can't really wear it on my videos. Anyway, gorgeous palette. I had a girlfriend over a couple of weeks ago and she was really admiring this and it would look gorgeous on her. So I already have a really, really good home for the MILANI Soft and Sultry Cool Toned palette. Okay. All right, let's talk about the e.l.f. New Classics. This is a really nice palette. I bought this because Mrs. Melissa M has been raving about it for a really long time. It is a super affordable, high quality drugstore, pretty neutral palette. I do love the fact that it has some little pops of color. Look at that pretty green. And I'm definitely going to keep this because it really comes in handy when I'm doing, you know, drugstore get readies with me. I think it's really high quality. I like the pigment. I like the blendability. I think it's a great palette. That is a keeper. Okay, here is another really great affordable drugstore palette. This is CATRICE's Basic Bay palette. I purchased this last spring for a drugstore get ready with me. Emily Noel has raved about this over and over. It's a really high quality, affordable neutral palette. Beautiful mattes, pigmented, blendable, really nice soft satin shimmers. I created a really pretty look. I will link that video below. Unfortunately, the majority of these colors pull very peachy warm on me, and so I can only wear about 3 or 4 of these colors. There are 12 pans here, and if I can't use at least half of the colors, I really feel like I'm wasting the palette. So I am going to rehome this and find somebody who is going to be able to get much more use out of the entire palette than I have been able to. I do recommend this. I do think it's a great palette, but I am decluttering it simply because the majority of the colors pull warm on me and I don't enjoy that. Another drugstore fail. This is the Profusion Smoky palette. Oh my gosh. Profusion palettes are really good. This is a $5 palette. I think the formula is excellent. The mattes are beautiful. The shimmers, they're just gorgeous. Unfortunately, I purchased the wrong color story for me. It's just too dark for me, and actually some of these colors are a little bit too warm for me. So I'm actually interested in trying some of their other more neutral, lighter color stories. But it's a really nice, very, very affordable palette, Profusion. It's about $5. I am decluttering that. Oh my gosh, this makes me sad. This is my Flower Beauty Shimmer and Shade eyeshadow palette. I have gotten tons and tons of use out of this. It's one of my favorite summer palettes. It's one of the few palettes that's a little bit on the warm side that I absolutely love. Really good formula. These shimmers, let me swatch this shimmer for you and this matte. There's the matte, perfect transition shade, and look at that soft khaki green shimmer. Can you see that? It's one of my favorite colors. Unfortunately, this palette is just so beat up, and the fact that the packaging is just such a mess, I just don't enjoy using it anymore. I've gotten a lot of good use out of it. I do recommend it, but I am gonna let that go. No, my Persona Identity palette is not going anywhere. First of all, look at that packaging. I love the artwork. This was definitely one of my top 3 palettes, in my top 3 in every category. The formula is absolutely spectacular. The mattes are blendable and pigmented with 0 fallout. These soft shimmers are so gorgeous. They're really pretty on mature eyes. All of these are really good for a one and done. I love my Persona Identity palette. I wish she would come out with more palettes. You know, she has a copper palette, which is too warm for me. She has a pink palette, which is too pink. And then she has the Identity 2, which is too colorful. So I'm really looking forward to one of these days her coming out with another palette. I would absolutely buy it. I think it is a I think this might be my favorite formula of any of the eyeshadows that I have. This and Sydney Grace, I think, are the best formulas of the eyeshadow brands that I have so far. Persona Identity is not going anywhere. That is a keeper. Here's another oldie but goodie. This is the Naked Basics 2. You know, I've never owned a full-sized Urban Decay Naked palette. This Urban Decay Naked Basics 2 is a fabulous 100% matte, cool, neutral tone palette. I absolutely love it. You know, even though this is all matte, I just love having this palette. You can see that is one of my favorite transition colors. So I use it in conjunction with a lot of other palettes. The size is very conducive to combining this with other palettes. I absolutely love it. By that same token, I recently picked up the Urban Decay Naked Basics 3. Oh my gosh. That color story is right up my alley. I actually just got this a couple of weeks ago. You know, Ulta sent me an email saying I was getting, I can't remember if it was 5 times or 10 times points on eyeshadow palettes. Oh my gosh, that made me buy 2 palettes. I'm super excited to have this. I can't wait to play with it. I really haven't played with it very much, but I really love the formula, and I think it's a great companion to my other Urban Decay Naked Basics 2. I love the size of these palettes. I love how sturdy the packaging is, and I'm really happy to have both of those. Okay, Sephora, I love. Oh my gosh, I picked this up during the Sephora sale, I think last spring. I love this. It is a really easy, high quality, super basic neutral eyeshadow palette. This is in the color Light Cool. They have a medium cool and a dark cool, and then they have a light warm, a medium warm, and a dark warm. And they also have some in a more like a colorful color story. This is just a perfect travel palette. You can't go wrong with this palette. It's super easy to use, super high quality. I'm really happy I have this. It's really compact, sturdy packaging, great for travel, super easy to use, very affordable. I love it. This is a COLLAB palette. I picked this up a couple of years ago because Tarte was talking about how great the COLLAB formula is. And it is a really good formula and very affordable. You can find COLLAB cosmetics at Sally Beauty. So I picked this up. I think it's a great formula. I just don't use it. Again, I think the color story is just a little bit too dark for me, and I have these colors in other palettes. So as great as this formula is, and as beautiful as this color story is, and as affordable as it is, I am going to rehome this to someone who will get more use out of it than I have. Because again, I do think I have those colors in other palettes that I use more often. Here's another COLLAB palette. Well, this is a trio. I picked this up at the same time because I was really interested in this green color. Really pretty green color. I just don't use it. I don't know. I just don't use it. This is going bye-bye. Right. Then let's talk about the LORAC Unzipped. This is sort of an iconic classic eyeshadow palette. It was in my wish list for at least 2 or 3 years. And when I got that email a month or so ago saying 10 times points on all eyeshadow palettes, I picked this up, and I also picked up the Urban Decay. I'm super excited to have this. I can't wait to start playing with it. These colors are right up my alley. Oh my gosh, should I swatch a couple? I'm gonna swatch a couple. Pinky. Right up my alley. Right up my alley. And not long after I received this, I was watching Jen Phelps do her top 3 in every category, and I was really happy that she actually put this palette, this LORAC Unzip palette, in her top 3 eyeshadows. So super happy to have it. Can't wait to start playing with it and doing some videos with that. That's a keep. Okay, let's talk about my small palettes. e.l.f. Bite Size Palette. e.l.f. Bite Size Palette in the color Rose Water. $3 palette. Beautiful color story, definitely keeping that. One of my all-time favorite drugstore palettes is the Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells. It is just so easy to use. The formula was beautiful. This is one of my most used palettes. I've absolutely loved it. Like I said, I repurchased it 3 or 4 times. So I was really excited when Wet n Wild, you know, updated the packaging and added another color. So instead of a quad, it is now a quint. Unfortunately for me, this new Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells is a completely different color story. The new color story just does not work for me at all. I find all these colors to pull very warm, peachy orange on me. The formula is fine. A lot of people have said they really enjoyed it. Angie created a really pretty look with this. Mandy Lee loves all the new Wet n Wilds. The color story is really disappointing to me. It's way too warm and way too peachy. So that is being decluttered, and I am definitely keeping my Walking on Eggshells, and I'm really sad that you cannot buy this anymore. Very similar story with the Wet n Wild Petalette. Really pretty quad. The updated formula and color story just is not the same. I have heard some people say they love the new formula and the new color story. Some people say they don't. I don't know. I just really prefer the original, so I am decluttering the new Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells, and I am Petalette, and I'm keeping the original. Okay, the other Wet n Wild original quad. This is in the color Silent Treatment. I love this, and I didn't see that they actually even put this in their new collection. Look at these beautiful, beautiful, cool tones. Cool tone neutrals. I love it. It has been discontinued. I do not believe they included this color story in their new formula, but I am keeping that. And in the last Wet n Wild, this is called Nude Awakening. I've had this for several years. I've gotten a lot of good use out of it. I really don't reach for it anymore because I truly do really prefer some of my other palettes. And again, this palette has been reformulated and repackaged, and I'm just not really interested in trying any of the new packaging from the new Wet n Wild line. Having said that, you know, just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not good. Mandy Lee loves everything in the new Wet n Wild line. It's just, I don't know, it's just not for me. Okay, I just rearranged everything, and I just realized that I did not deal with the 2 items in the maybe pile. The Too Faced Natural Mattes is a maybe, and the Tartelette Matte is a maybe. And you know what? I'm going to keep these. I'm going to keep these. Maybe when I have fewer palettes in my collection, I will reach for these more often. So let's do a final count. All right, we did it. There's the keep pile, there's the declutter pile. I'm super happy with how this turned out. I'm super excited to be finding really good homes for these, somebody who will enjoy and use and love them way more than I have been able to. And once I can clear my inventory out a little bit, I am really looking forward to diving into all of these palettes and using them much more than I have in the past. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I always appreciate the time that you spend with me. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you enjoyed it too. And if you did, I would really love it if you would give this video a thumbs up. That really helps support my channel. With all that being said, please take really good care of yourself so that you can stay safe, happy, and healthy. I hope you have a beautiful day and a wonderful week, and I hope to see you in my video next Sunday. Thank you. Bye.